morning, everyone. So glad to have you coming in here today. This is Cyndy McDonald. I am your host for Cyndy's Friday Forums. And this is our opportunity to talk to experts in areas that we care a lot about. And I'm always so fortunate to be able to welcome guests and have very honest, casual conversations. And I'm always honored to have you join me as we talk about these things that are really important to us as educators, as entrepreneurs, and as professionals who work with families and students. So as you join us today, go ahead and put in your name and your location in the chat so that Greg and Stefano can see where you're from. And we're very glad to welcome you here today. Today we're going to be talking about inclusive college campuses. In the current environment, as we're in higher education, we want to make sure all our students are feeling welcome and included no matter what their status. And I've invited Greg and Stefano. Greg is from Elon University and Stefano is from Lynn University, because I know both these universities have a long history of having an inclusive college campus. So thank you, Greg and Stefano, for being with me here today. As you're coming in, I'm going to look at the chat. Let's see, you can talk to everybody, and we can see we've got people already from West Palm Beach and Fremont. Jeffrey, glad to see you. Melissa, glad to see you. We often have people from all over, not only the country, but all over the world. And as you're coming in and sharing, remember that we will be able to take questions. You can put the questions in the question box, and that's a little more preferable than doing it in the chat, just because it makes it easier for us to manage. Greg is the Dean, Vice President. Let me get this term right. Greg Zaiser is the Vice President for Enrollment at Elon University, and you're actually a graduate of Elon. Is that correct?
I am. I have been at Elon for quite a while. I'm a transplant from New Jersey to North Carolina many years ago now. So long that I'm told I can no longer claim New Jersey as my home, but I don't believe that. So
Yeah, no, your heart can be in one place and you can still be another. And Stefano, you have a similar kind of story as well. Stefano Papaleo serves at Lynn University as the executive director of undergraduate admissions, but you're also a graduate of Lynn University. But
Yeah.
you were also an international student.
There's a little bit of a twist there. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Rome, Italy, and I was recruited to play tennis for Lynn back in the early 90s. And I think it's very much part of the conversation that we are about to have, right? The inclusivity and just the love that we felt, quite frankly, going into our own institutions, right? That is, I mean, I speak more myself, but I almost feel like I can speak for Greg, right? They kept us there because of that connection that we've been able to develop throughout the years, beginning from when we were students.
I think that's very important because you're able to actually have seen the evolution of that, what that looks like. Like when both of you went to college, when I went to college, it was slightly different. I think I went to college a little longer ago than either one of you. And so, things have changed in higher education over the years, but that sense of inclusivity and being able to make all students feel welcome hasn't. So let's talk a little bit more about that. And what ways does your college foster that sense of belonging to students on campus? What are some concrete ways that's demonstrated? Stefano, we'll start with you.
Okay. So a couple of things. I guess I'll use myself as an example as well. So Lynn has always been very internationally oriented, very internationally minded. So I remember when coming in as an international student, my English was okay. I had passed the TOEFL, but I had never actually lived and studied in an English-speaking country. So I just remember how everyone was willing and able to really support me as a person, me as a student, me as an international student, to make sure I would have the best possible experience and the best possible success, both in the classroom, outside the classroom, on the tennis court. I just realized that there was this incredible community of support. Built around the university, right? And that's what really gave me the first impression that I would be okay no matter what, right? That I got there and I'm like, yes, I'm going to be missing home. Yes, I'm going to have a hard time in school because I've actually never studied in English, but I'm going to be okay because there's so many people there that are there to help me and that are willing to help, right? And it was very, very clear from minute one, from when the coach came to pick me up at the airport to to meeting my roommate, to going into class and realizing that, there were only 20 people in the classroom and I could actually, raise my hand and ask for help in the classroom itself, and then all around me with the RAs. I think the fact that Lynn was a smaller university definitely helped in that sense, but I don't think that size is necessarily what makes a university supportive. I think it's a culture that you develop as an institution and the people that have to buy into that culture. And I was incredibly surprised, coming in. And I will give one point of reference. I transferred from the University of Rome, which is one of the oldest universities in the world, as it was established in 1306. And it had, at the time that I was going there, had 220,000 students. So it was
Wait a minute. How many students did it have?
220,000 back in the day when I went. Yeah. So yeah, think of I don't know, 5 times the University of Florida or whatever, however you want to. And I was used to, right, really being completely independent because I mean, to just navigate, that size, you have to be. And then coming into Lynn, I had the complete opposite, and I can tell you that I enjoyed it immensely. To have the ability to have that connection, and I think the connection has to do a lot with the support. So that's my story, Greg.
Yeah, thanks. I would say, one of the things that Elon, I hope, I believe, and a lot of people do know Elon for it being a very relationship-rich place, very relationship-oriented. I mean, we are 7,000 students total, undergraduate and graduate, with about 6,300 undergrads. But that starts in the admission process. So naturally, one of the things that we strive to do here in our office is, build relationships with students and their families as we go through the process, because we know it can be daunting. We do this year in and year out, but students and families don't do this year in and year out. And we always hear, all three of us, and those who joined us today virtually, hear that college, boy, the whole college process has changed a lot since I went to college, or since, someone I know went to college. And our goal is to really build a relationship and sort of foster a sense of inclusion and understanding about this process from the very beginning, long before you even arrive at Elon. And then when students do arrive at Elon, I think they find that this is not the kind of environment that, okay, you've been through admissions, now here's everybody else. We stay with families and students along the journey. And just yesterday I was at a restaurant in town, and one of our server was a student that I got to know during the admissions process, and she and I have kept in touch via having coffee, and so that's sort of a hallmark of Elon, and I think that's one of the things that draws students and families to Elon, but it draws staff members to Elon. If you care about people, if you want to work with people, and if you want to make a difference in someone's life, because it's a mutual kind of thing, right? It starts from the very beginning. So I think people feel that and experience that during their time here.
I think both of you have hit on a point that's really important coming from a student and a parent perspective and our perspective as educators and advisors, is that building those relationships and laying that foundation, and that it's not compartmentalized. I'm in Central California, and so a lot of my students look at the University of California, for example. And I've shared this story before, but I asked one of my students who was going to one of the UCs, like, well, how many people are in your class? 1,100 students in my biology class.
Yeah.
I looked at him and was like, okay, so how do you even see the professor when you're sitting in a lecture? He said, I don't. The professor now, they don't even have to be in a separate room. They just be on Zoom like this. Like I never see my professor, versus being able to have that connection, being able to go to class, being able to go have breakfast or coffee, or just know that there is somebody out there that cares about you as a person. You're not a number, you're not a statistic, you're not part of the incoming class, but that you have that. So I think that makes a huge amount of difference. Um, and that's that culture of that inclusivity, is just a matter of focusing on the human and the personal level. So both of your campuses are in very red areas, but you have developed an inclusive type of environment in your communities, on your campus. So tell us a little bit about that. Are there some best practices that you could share, that like when we're visiting colleges, what some questions or things that we should be looking for that can indicate that? And and the other thing is, like, how do you manage around that? Some people will say, oh, I don't want to go to this state or that state. I get this in California again, because it's this kind of state. So you have to combat that kind of perspective. So what are some things that you would recommend?
Yeah, I'll start with this one. I'm glad you asked it that way too, Cindy, because you're exactly right. Students can fall in love with a school because of the values of the institution of belonging and inclusion, but it could be an environment that they may not feel is the same off campus. So I think it's important for families to be asking those questions as well. Okay, I feel good here. I feel comfortable here. My student, most importantly, feels, included here. This is the kind of environment we're seeking. But what's it like when I go to Walmart? What's it like when I go to, a restaurant in town? So I think the short answer for that at Elon is, for a long time, much longer than, recent years, I would say, we have had an office or a division of inclusive excellence. And we know that's a term that's commonly used at a lot of colleges and universities. So what this does is basically it creates a framework for the entire university. There's a vice president and a full staff that is, engaged in developing programs, and we're an educational institution. So our goal is to ensure that students understand that the walk of life that they have come from is not everyone else's walk of life. And we all know that diversity comes in all forms. And so it's not limited to the Office of Inclusive Excellence, but what that division does is it creates opportunity for learning and for understanding and student interaction and faculty and staff engagement across difference. And so I think that one question to ask is, okay, this feels like a safe environment. This feels like a place where I could see this student that I'm working with, or this student that I'm working with. But tell me about how the university has structured itself to ensure that students who may be underrepresented historically here feel a sense of belonging. And tell me about what it is that the university does for all students, not just the majority student, or not just one population of students. So it's a lot of words, but I think at the end of the day, for Elon, because we have long valued, and it's built into our mission, that this is an educational environment, and our job is to educate students and families that we have the infrastructure that is there to support students regardless of where they're coming from.
Right, right. Definitely.
Yeah, I would say, so I'll start so one of our taglines from a couple of view books ago, view books ago was, we find strengths and differences, right? And that's, very true of who Lynn is as an institution and all the type of students that come here. We have a very varied type of students that come. Whether it's academic ability, whether it's race, whether it's athletic ability, and all those things make Lynn, very much a mishmash of populations that kind of come together and make this wonderful puzzle that is most educational institutions have we're not, although we're small, we're not regional. We have students that come from 100, and I think I was looking at data today, 107 countries. That about 18% of our students are international, and 45, 46 different states in the union, right? So people literally come from all over the country and all over the world to come together, with different likes, with different dreams, with different aspirations, and it works, right? Lynn is ranked the number one most diverse institution in the state of Florida, and not number 5 in the country. So, it's part of our DNA to be different and to really cater to all kinds of students. If you go to the cafeteria, you hear all these languages, you see all these people from the flight students that are wearing their uniform to the students that are studying game design that have green hair and and cut out jeans, to the athletes that come in with their golf clubs or their tennis rackets. You hear all kinds of language that you can think of. You see all the colorful skins that are the most beautiful thing about our world, right? It's what makes us who we are as a planet, right? As the planet Earth. And that's what I love most about the institution. As someone that came here as an alien, if you will, I have really embraced that, and I think that when you walk into the university, you really feel it. It's almost like you're walking through a space continuum, right? And you come into this place, and you're like, oh my God, this is so cool. What's going on in here? How do people find out about this place? And why are and it's just a beautiful thing, and it actually works, right? When you're in class and you discuss ethics, and you have people from all over the world that are actually putting their context into the conversation. The conversation is so much richer than you would if everybody were from the 50 miles radius from campus, right? And it's unbelievable, what comes out of that. So, hence, the fact that we are different, that makes us stronger. The other part of your question about being in a red state, I think, is to also be put in a context of what we're talking about, right? I mean, I think you can be in California and be in a red area, right?
totally.
Or you can be in
I
Florida,
exactly how you can describe where I am.
and be in a blue area, right? Or be in an area that is very well-rounded, right? And so I think that it's very restrictive, for some family to say, oh, I'm never going to send my kids to Texas, or I'm never going to send my kids to Florida just because it's a red state. I think everything has to be put in the context of what your wishes are, what you want to accomplish, and what is the university itself that can make that dream come true, that can achieve, can make you achieve what you want to achieve. I mean, we are, for instance, in a blue county, where we are. So it's a very different feel that if you were in a different part of the state, which probably it's true in the state of New York. It's probably true in the state of Connecticut. It's probably true in any blue or red state that you want to. I think the conversation has to be brought back to best matched institution for what you wish to accomplish. Yeah, that should be part of the conversation, whether you are going to be wherever you're going to be, but at the end of the day, it has to go back to the university culture, to the university itself, as part of the like Greg was saying, we try to educate our students the best we can based on what our culture and what our philosophy is. And if you buy into that philosophy, we're probably a really good institution. It doesn't really matter where we are. It's just what we are able to accomplish, as a group of people that really believe in what we do.
I also think if I could just add to, when you think about Florida and certainly North Carolina, I mean, there are a lot of colleges and universities, and there are a lot of colleges and universities nationally, right? And certainly everywhere. But, I literally where I am sitting talking with you all today, I'm in the hotbed of colleges and universities. There are 36 private schools and the flagship public system. And I guess my point in saying that too is if you're wondering what it's like in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is 20 minutes from here, or Durham or Chapel Hill, or all of which we're literally in the middle of, there are a lot of educational institutions, just like there are in Florida. And I think that regardless of the color of the county or the state, is something to consider as well, in a positive way if you're looking for a community that is going to uphold, you in a sense that is important to your identity.
Well, and so basically it sounds like we need to get past the surface and really look at what the fit is, what the community, what the university has to offer. And that's kind of our drum song as college counselors. Sometimes it's easier said than done. But we do really encourage our students to do that kind of research and understanding. So what are some ways that, like, are there questions students can ask when they come visit campuses, like to come to your campus? I think one of the things, like both of you said, especially Stefano, it's like just walking on a campus, the college visit is so important. Sometimes it's hard for students to, if they're international, come and visit the campus. What are some ways that they can get to know the campus and the culture and really dig underneath the surface? So what are some thoughts?
Take that one first, Stefano.
Sure. Well, Cyndy, yes, I know the campus visit, is for many students is a possibility. For some students, is not, right? So, and maybe it's not maybe early in the process. I know that some families wait until they are down to the like top 3, top 4, top 5 institutions, so they can have a very good. But a lot of the selection happens before. I feel that one of the things that COVID left us was the ability to have this incredible opportunity to connect virtually, right? In ways that we had never thought possible before. And I feel that most institutions still have, I should say many institutions, not most, but many institutions still have a lot of virtual programming. And I feel that Zoom really gives you the ability, or whatever other platform universities may use, gives you the ability to really have a connection, right? And for instance, we do have a couple of programs where we just have a panel of students, right, on a Zoom call. And we want the students to connect with those students and ask them all the questions that they want to ask and have a feel for the institutions. We have a program just for parents, right? And we have other parents on, we have administrators on to really kind of, peel that onion. Like you said, you can't just say, oh, okay, that institution is that way, so there's no way that I'm going to, even though you know perfectly that the program that they have might be the most perfect program, but you take it out of the the run just because it might be in a location that doesn't seem that aligns with your values. But I feel that if we can all go past that, that the first few layers, then you can really find out. And then you might find out it might be the place, but it might not be the place. So, and I'll give you a very quick example. I'll go back to the student visit. Every single visit that we do have at Lynn is individualized to each and every student. We have a team that's called Campus Visit Experience Team. We have 4 people on that team that plan every single visit for every single student, like if it were, I told them, like, you have to plan it like if it were a wedding, right? And they try to really make it as personalized as they possibly can. Like we have a group of about 70 to 80 admission ambassadors from every part of the world. That we speak just about every language. They're about every possible, race and background that you can think of, and we try to match our best student ambassador to that family based on their interests, based on what they want to study, based on where they come from, so they can actually connect with someone that they feel comfortable with, someone that looks like them, someone that might be doing the same major that they're interested in doing, to really understand what is it really like. Yes, I can read that you do have a finance program, but what does it really mean for me coming in? Can I am I going to feel comfortable being who I am as part of the community? And I think that that's exactly the kind of culture that you want to understand. And our goal is for those families to leave that campus visit experience knowing exactly, yes, Lynn, I want to pursue it, I'm going to apply, or no, it's definitely not for me. Then we will have done our job, right? We don't want to leave anything in between where, yeah, it was kind of nice, but I couldn't understand, what they do for this, or, sometimes you go in a big, large group visit, with like 50 families, and you have one tour guide in the front that points at buildings and you can barely hear it. You're afraid to ask questions because we want to make sure that nobody else listens to what you're asking, and we want to take that out of the way and just make sure, okay, is Lynn a good place for you? Great. Let's work together. Let's build that relationship. Let's make sure that you have the best possible experience. If not, great. I'm sure that there's a place out there that's going to be a great option for you.
Mhm, mhm. Definitely.
Yeah, I would say, Elon, a lot of the things that Stefano said, certainly in the virtual realm. I mean, we have chat with a student, we have groups of students who just meet with students, and we get out of the way, and we just want them to be able to see, everybody wants to know, can I see myself there?
Yep.
Right? Will there be other people like me there who have the same interests, or, and so there's that. And so lots of opportunity. And the first thing I would say too is, I am very aware that colleges and universities often say, because I hear myself saying it, let us know how we can be helpful. We need to do a better job at being more proactive and flipping that, because the 17-year-old does not know necessarily what it is that they need to know. So we need to do a better job about putting information in front of them. So we try to do that virtually. We've a lot. You're right, Stefano. I mean, obviously the pandemic made virtual so much more accessible, and we have basically just continued building our virtual platforms so that students have greater access to the university. But when they come to visit, which we also love, and yes, students, when they're applying to multiple schools, wait until later in the cycle or in the process. There is a general campus tour. It can be in English, it can be in Spanish, it could be in another language if we have a staff member who, we are not quite as international as Lynn. I think everyone knows that. We aspire to be more international. These are tough days to grow your international population, but we're working on it. But all of that said, if a student wants to learn about Jewish life at Elon, there are lots of things that when there's the class or the tour registration, that students can elect to have an add-on to learn more about. Some of it is academic, but a lot of it is social life. What is the Creed? That's our Center for Race, Ethnicity, and Diversity Education. I want to learn more about that because that's an important part of what I want to get out of my college experience. I want to go to the Sweat Hillel Center because my Jewish identity is important to me. What are those things that students value? We're going to be able to deliver on those so that students can see themselves here, or at least understand that there is what is important to them is very present at Elon, and there is a community within each of those areas within the larger community.
I think recognizing when we're talking about inclusivity and how to help students feel welcome, recognize that culture is such an important thing.
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation several years ago with the director of admissions at a very one of the Ivy League schools, and it was a student that had been admitted from a public high school in Fresno. I knew he was academically prepared, but I was worried about the culture. You know, we're in this particular little small town. Where was he going to find his Hispanic culture? Were there clubs? Were there community? Was there all these things? And the director of admissions just didn't get it. You know, he just kept saying, well, they can prepare, you know, here's what we can do to prepare them academically. I was like, I'm not worried about the academic. What about the cultural side?
Yeah.
And the fact that you understand that and cultivate that and acknowledge that, that is huge, especially right now in our communities in many of those different aspects. So it makes a difference for students. I just had breakfast this morning with one of my students, and she just finished her freshman year at college, and she had connected through Facebook that her college had set up and had found somebody that they wanted to be roommates. And so she hadn't even met her yet, but they were already planning that living situation once they, you know, got to the campus. So that kind of thing of putting students together and parents that, you know, really appeases some of their concerns, whether you're multi-generational or you're sending your kids to college for the first time. You know, that it's a much different kind of thing, but they're still going to have concerns. So
Yeah.
Cyndy, we have a saying in the office. We say culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yes.
Right. And that's I think Greg and I were talking about that just not too long ago. And that's you know, that's the culture that we try to disseminate across campus, you know, with our students, with our student guides, you know, and it has to be a culture of openness. It has to be a culture of transparency, right? Because not everybody is a good match for every institution, right? So you have to really be true to who you are, and that's what I think has made specific. You know, Greg and I have known each other for 30 plus years, and it's, you know, we've been um, bumping ideas you know, for as long as we've been doing this, you know, to one another. And I think it's a great you know, collegial relationship that you can have with some people in this type of environment. And you know, it's great. I always say to put possibly the only other institution that I would want to work for is Elon.
Anytime, Stefano.
you're gonna have to pry away from Lynn.
No, I know. I will say too, you know, I think that, you know, we all offer academic programs. Each of us have different opportunities within those academic programs. I suspect that a 17 or an 18-year-old, in most cases, not in every case, you know, if they're looking at one school and then another school and another school, in my dreams, it's only 3 schools, but sometimes it's 20 schools. But all of that is to say, they know, okay, if I study finance here, I'm going to get a really good education. Or if I study finance here, I'm going to get a really good education. So that is one thing they may feel confident about. But who am I going to live with? Where am I going to live? Where are my suite mates going to be from? How am I going to spend my time? What am I going to eat? How am I going to, you know, all of those things are the things. And we have a brochure, and it's called Live, Eat, Do, and it's about where you're going to live, what you're going to eat, and what you're going to do. And we developed that a couple of years ago, and it's the most popular thing that we print, and most popular visited website that we offer, because we know that students feel, in a sense, confident about the academic. They're obviously concerned about, you know, the level of rigor because they're coming out of high school and it's all new to them. But at the end of the day, those other things, if you are comfortable and you are fulfilled and you are engaged, you're going to be more successful in the classroom. So that's a big piece of this college process. And all of us know that, but I think it's important to just put out there because, we've been there, done that. We are working with families who may not have. And even if they have, it's still new. And new is scary for all of us at some point.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. So I have show notes that I put with every show. So I would love to put that in the show notes. That's fantastic. Because it is. It's a part of. It's such a crucial part of who students are and what they're doing. The student that I just met with this morning, I found out that she has severe allergies. She has a severe dairy allergy and gluten allergy and probably half a dozen other things. So her plan was, I asked her, well, like, do we need to look at the food options and the, cafeteria plan stuff? She's like, no, I'm just gonna cook for myself. Well, as you can well imagine, as a freshman in a dorm, that was easier said than done. And when she went and saw the kitchen, she was like, it was disgusting. There's just
Definitely easier said than done.
yeah. So when she said I was able to go, I just was able to go with the vegan options, and she did a little bit of trial and error, but that was that's such a crucial thing. So the other thing I want to ask you guys about is the neurodivergent students. How does those students who are coming not only from different backgrounds or experiences, but our students that learn differently, how do they feel in terms of when they're on campus? I know both of you have specific educational approaches that are really favorable for neurodivergent students. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Greg, you want to go?
Sure. So, 10 years ago or so, we built the Königsberger Learning Center. I think recognizing that we all learn, obviously, Elon is known for engaged experiential learning, but we all learn differently, right? And a lot of places are engaged now in experiential learning, but we all learn differently, and all of us learn differently for different reasons as well. So the Königsberger Learning Center is our really comprehensive. It's a part of the library, so it's the heart of the academic piece of the university. And this, of course, is where our resources offices are. It's where academic advising lives. This is where our tutoring center lives. This is where all of the academic support programs exist to ensure that students, regardless of how they learn, regardless of whether or not they have an IEP, regardless of, have the support necessary. Plus, our average class size, much like Lynn's, is relatively small. We're an average class of 20, and the largest class at Elon is 33. So I think that's one of the reasons, that, students with different styles of learning and neurodivergent students find Elon or a place like Elon to be a good fit because they know the support exists and they know the structure or the community exists to empower them to be successful and to work with them in order to be successful. So I can tell you there are many success stories. I seldom hear. I also happen to work with some of the greatest people I could ever hope to work with, which is what I love so much about Elon, because they are truly invested in student success. And I think you see that across campus.
Well, along the same line with what Greg said, I think that again, I would go back to the size. Yes, of course, that's very important because you have that you can develop a relationship with your professors, but also with the other students that are in the classroom, right? If you need help, if you need connection, if you need a reassurance, if it's all right there for you. I would add. By saying that at Lynn we had we've had a history of working with students that are neurodivergent. We believe very, very clearly that every student learns differently, right? No matter how strong you are academically, there are different things that appeal more to different students. So I think at Lynn, we've always tried to stay a step ahead of the time, in terms of how we deliver the instruction and how we feel that students learn best. So we mostly, and I believe that Elon does, the same, but we work mostly on a project-based learning type of environment where, it's a lot more hands-on, so rather than learn marketing, you actually work on a project that involves a marketing project, right? So you're actually learning marketing by doing something that is related to marketing that you can actually utilize, once you get your job in marketing. I said marketing like 30 times, but you get the point. Uh,
What major was that, Stefano? What major? I'm just kidding.
oh, physical education, Gary.
Okay, thank you. I missed
Marketing to open up a gym, right? But so that's one thing that I think is very important. And if you look at all the research out there, the students that are the most successful after college have two main areas, right, that they can connect with. And this is based on the largest body of research that was ever done on success after college. So this is a Purdue Gallup research from 2014, where they interviewed over 30,000 recent graduates. And it goes back to the connections that you develop with your faculty members and the connections that you develop. So having a true mentor in the educational process helps tremendously in being successful after college, and then doing things in college that actually are real life experiences, right? Like internships, participate in conferences, being part of group projects, individual projects, simulations that actually you can show to an employer that you've done things that really matter. The other thing that I love about Lynn is that we train professors to teach in multimodality. Okay, because we know that if you are in a classroom of 15, 20, 30 people, there's going to be 30 different ways of learning, right? So the way that you utilize pedagogy is very, very important. So teaching in just one way does not necessarily help. So if you lecture in a monotone way for the entire time of the lecture, by the time that you're 17 minutes into it, you will have lost, 30, 40, 50% of the class, right? But if you're able to address different learning styles, then you got them all, right? And the interesting things is that the teaching with ways where with tactics that are taught, that are usually utilized for teaching students that have a diagnosed learning difference, actually work for everyone. Very, very interesting, right? So we train our faculty members to teach in multimodality. So if you have a student that is more auditory, if you have a student that is more kinesthetic, if you have a student that is more visual, everybody can actually get a great class out of that that time. The very last thing is that we switched to a block schedule during COVID. So students take one class a month for the most part. There's some nuances to that, but that has allowed us to really make sure that the student concentrate 100% of their efforts in that specific subject area for 4 weeks. They finish that class, they get their final grade, and then they move on to the next project. So it works incredibly well with a project-based learning approach. And for students, that instead of having to manage, 5 or 6 different courses at the same time, they just concentrate on that specific subject area.
Yeah, I'll just add quickly. Certainly different than what you just described, Stefano. But our curriculum has been a 4 credit hour curriculum for a lot of years. So students are in class for 4 hours a week, and basically that means that because it's very discussion oriented, very project based, not lecture. It gives students more time in class to do what they do. The other thing I'll just say about learning styles is that never has this been more obvious to me than maybe this week, because I literally so Elon is very much in person. Even during the pandemic, we were in person except for those 6 weeks, in March of 2020 and beyond. But we opened up in person in the fall of 21. All of that is to say, we do have obviously a focus on lifelong learning. So for our alumni and people who just want to learn about different things, we have an extension. It's called Elon Next. And so I took my very first class. I'm getting somewhere, folks. I took my very first virtual class, Zoom, this week and last week, and it was on artificial intelligence. And what I have learned is that virtual learning is not for this that is not my style of learning. I knew that going into it, but like everything in life, until you experience something, you don't have full appreciation for it. And did I learn some stuff? Yes. But I'm a very hands-on learner. This is why we don't have, virtual classes for undergraduate, and most of our graduate students are all in person. But all that is to say, it was a powerful learning experience for me. I knew it, I figured it, but until you actually live it, you realize that, again, it just taught me. My boss, who's the president, said, "How was that?" And I said, "Let's just say I would have preferred to have been in person." Right. And again, we were both thinking that's why we deliver in person. That's why we value in person, excellent instruction by faculty mentors. So it's a bit of a tangent, but talking about learning styles, mine is not virtual.
Well, and
Yeah, and Cyndy, I think if sorry, one more thing, because I think this is a very important piece of our conversation, and it has to do with selecting the right institution, with culture, with inclusivity as well. I think the mentorship part that Greg just mentioned, it's key to find success. And Jeff Salingo, his new book is going to talk all about that, right? And it's going to be about how you do universities. What really matters is not where you go. And I've realized throughout the years, that coming from a very large public institutions back home to go into Lynn is that what made the entire difference for me, right? Because I really became not just learning notions and passing a midterm and a final. I started learning for the sake of learning because I love learning and because I could communicate, because I could empathize with my faculty member, and the faculty member could empathize with me. And I'm still incredibly close to a lot of the faculty members that I had as an undergraduate student, right? Which, I mean, I think that's the key, right? That's the key. How do you find a place where you can really find that great balance between learning and between learning for the next step in life, right? And I love that. I love that that especially some of the work that I've seen in Jeff Salingo's book, just across the different institutions, whether they're highly selective or not selective at all, the difference is what you experience in the classroom, right? And how you get to connect with the mentors.
Well, let me just add to Stefano, clearly you are a lot younger than I am, because all of my professors, except for one, have retired. But yours are all still there, so you're clearly much younger.
Well, not all. There's a couple left, but even the ones that have retired, keep coming back. So
right. Yeah, it's fun too, isn't it, to see the professors that you had all these years later, and they see you in your role, and you just know that they helped get you there, right? Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad, Stefano, that you mentioned that book of Jeffrey Salingo. He's written other books, who knows. The first book he wrote was Who Got In and Why, I think, something like that.
It's in what?
Well, he wrote another one before that one that it's called University on. Well, anyway, yeah. But Who Goes In and Why was the one that he kind of it made him go to every single conference as the guest speaker but yeah, no.
College Unbound, Federico.
College Unbound.
Yeah. MOOC U, Dream School.
Look up the exact title of the second one and post that in the chat. I'm glad to see you guys are following along.
Oh, okay. Hi, Freddie.
I'm very excited to see this new book, and hopefully we'll get to have some conversations about that as well. But
have you pre-ordered it? I have pre-ordered it. Have you pre-ordered it? Yeah.
I haven't done it.
I didn't, but I'm gonna go right after this session. I'm gonna go straight to the website and pre-order it.
That's.
I'll be sure to email Jeff and let him know that we plugged his book in this.
Well, good. Ask him if he can be on my Friday forum. That's my next goal. But I just want to mention, as we're closing, like in my UCLA class, I teach a class called Inclusive College Counseling, and we talk about all the different types of students we might work with: athletes, performing arts. I actually put veterans and LGBTQ in the same module because they're very distinct types of students with very distinct needs. They're very different, but they both have distinct needs. And what we've talked about today is the fact that you can meet those distinct needs of students by focusing on the human element. And that, I think, is one of the key things. So as we're closing, I just one question that I have for both of you is, how can we as college advisors support you, colleges, in offering an environment of inclusivity? What
Do
can
you want me
we
to go? Do you want to go, Greg?
Go ahead, Stefano.
Okay. I think that I noticed that and I think we've been incredibly blessed as an institution to have been able to develop personalized relationships with a lot of college counselors across the country throughout the years. And the fact that we've had a staff that has been here for uh, you know 25 plus years. Many of us have been here for a long time. As we've been able to develop incredible connections with a lot of phenomenal people in the industry. And um, I think that sometimes counselors tend to be maybe a little bit dismissive of certain institutions. And I'm not talking about Lynn because but I think maybe trying to learn about one or two institution every time that you might go to a conference. Maybe stop at a table from an institution that you never heard of and try to learn about it, right? And just say yes, because you do have your portfolio of people that you know very well, of universities that you know well. Maybe learning, something about somewhere where you might not even ever have heard of, might be a great way to find out new places that could be very, very inclusive, that could be great matches for your students. I don't know, maybe sometimes I feel that we as human beings, we tend to gravitate towards people that we know and towards things that we know, and not really live on the edge and learn about things that we might not feel as comfortable with. And sometimes it is maybe a little bit, you want to talk to a university that you never heard of, and you're like, oh, yeah, oh. But maybe that's a good way of expanding, everybody's ability to have a great match.
I think that's a great suggestion. Greg, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, I would say, I'm just going to be honest. Since you asked the question, Cindy, I think that we all, meaning folks on our side of the desk, folks on your side of the desk, go into this, especially on August 1st, right? The new cycle has begun today, and we're going to be out on the road traveling again. And I guess I would say two things. One is echoing to some extent what Stefano just said, in that if you don't know a school, please don't discard it or disregard it just because you don't know a school, or if you know a school has a really strong program in this. Chances are there are other schools that you don't know about that have have similarly strong programs for different reasons. So we would ask that you just sort of be open-minded to learning about new schools. That's what Stefano said. But back to what I started to say too is, I think I've been to presentations at conferences. I have done presentations or co-presented at conferences, and we talk about the ideal visit that is mutually beneficial for you when you come to our campuses, and for us when we go to your schools or to your offices. And I know we all get super busy, and it's really easy to say this when you're sitting at your desk. But if we could remember, in the busyness of our year, when you're dealing with so many students and we're on the road trying to generate applications, because we truly do believe that we offer something that's really special for your students, to take the time to just take a moment. If you can't take 30 minutes or even 15 minutes, please take a moment to prioritize just saying hello and getting to hear 2 or 3 new things or things about our school that we believe can help you help your students. And again, it's tricky because I know how busy we all get. But I think in the interest of responding to your question, that's a way for all of us to find benefit in our work. And ultimately, who benefits the most? Students. And
Right.
that's the goal, right? So.
Right. Well, and I think that's one of the beauty of this profession, no matter which side of the desk you're on, is we're all constantly learning and growing. You know, we try not to be stagnant. And so being able to ask those questions and set those goals of let me learn about some new programs, some new opportunities, some new approaches, some new colleges, that's so important. So thank you. I think those are great words of advice to end today with. Thank you both for being here today. I thank everyone else for being here too. And come join me, and not next weekend, I'm not next Friday is not a Friday forum, but on the 15th we're going to have kind of continue this conversation and have Christine Bowman from Southwestern, Lauren Sefton from Rhodes, and Kathy Finks from the College of Worcester. We're going to dive into this even a little more of politics in college and how do we as counselors have those conversations. So it'll be a continuation of this. I have John Durante, who has interviewed hundreds. He has a podcast. He's a principal in New York. And he's one of my former UCLA students. He's going to join me and talk about some top tips that he's learned after talking to probably close to 100, if not more, college admission deans. So we're going to talk about that. And then in September, NACAC's going to come and talk about admission trends. So we're going to dive into a little bit of data, and then I'm working on fall schedule. So it'll give you something to look forward to other than reading essays and reading applications. So, Stefano and Greg, thank you again for being with me today.
Thank you, Cyndy, very much.
Thank you, Cyndy. It's always a pleasure.
Truly.
Have a great weekend, and everybody have a great weekend. I have the best audience. Come back and see us again in the next Friday forum.